Is it the mustache? Who knows?
What's up YouTube? The final champion of the Magic Misadventures expansion has been revealed, and surprising no one, it will be Ahri. The reveal video just went live on the Legends of Runeterra channel. Let's have a look at this one first.
I'll see all this world has to offer. The hunt eternal. Captivating.
2 mana, 2/3 quick attack. First time attack strike, swap me with the ally to my right. Then recall it. So I suppose Ahri strikes again then.
Care that the hunt does not consume you, Ahri.
The others seem to wish it so.
Sounds a bit confusing.
Tempest style, wind form.
Uh-huh. Okay.
I'm one of the good guys, but not that good.
Funny. I was going to say the same. Flight steps.
Don't get ahead of yourself.
Ahri, I see you wear your cloak this day.
But not to hide.
Like a storm, I bring change.
The voice lines are pretty
My
edgy.
search is over. Now I hunt. The world's heart beats.
Recall an ally, reduce its cost by 1. Elusive. Each time I attack, strike, swap me with the ally to my right, then... Sounds really freaking strong. Like, really strong. 2 mana, 3/4 that levels in deck. Let's continue watching.
Mine.
I assume that's going to be the signature spell.
Start running.
Yeah, you can basically get, what, 6 times the value out of any combat track.
But watch your back.
It's pretty crazy.
Hasagi.
Victory at any cost! No more running.
Hello, my prey.
Even went for the phantom block. Solid.
Remember this moment.
Milde card though. Alright, let's look at all of those cards on the Twitter page. Alright, wow, okay. First of all, we have Ahri. Recall 6+ units this game to level up. Ahri looks really strong and very high skill cap, but also potentially broken, to be quite honest. Like, I'm not a big fan of these mechanics that kind of push the game to its edges, that make some combos super ridiculously strong, and especially considering that she is so low cost that all of the cards in her package and the recall package are super cheap. Again, similar as with Kennen, I'm a bit afraid that it's gonna be overtuned in the right hands, that players with who know what they're doing might find some combos or some decks that are very uninteractive to play against and kind of bringing back those Azir Relia vibes. Nonetheless, looks very strong and solid, and at least it's going to be very fun to experiment around with and to find those combos that really make Ahri worth including in the deck. Alright, we already checked out Ahri. Charm main deckable as well as the champion spell. We saw that already. Focus speed, recall an ally to give an enemy vulnerable this round. I'm not sure if that sees a lot of main deck play, but there are some advantages to it, especially if you run her with Kennen or Yasuo. You do have access to plenty of quick attack units, and especially if you pair her with Yasuo and play a card like Fey Blade Whirler, you can remove anything on your opponent's side of the board very effectively. The one big question around this whole archetype will still be, though, how much of a drawback will recalling be? Because generally, recall is supposed to cost you tempo, right? To slow you down because you have to invest mana to play a unit, and then you get it back, and then you invest mana to play it again. I'm not sure if that's still the case though, because we do have perfect recall targets like Dancing Droplet, and we also have cards like Cloaked Matriarch and other things that make recall a payoff more so than a cost. So at this point, I'm not sure yet how big of a drawback recalling will be, or if it will be similar to what the discard keyword went through. When back in the days, discarding was always something negative because you lost a card in your hand, right? Card disadvantage. Whereas now that they added some cards like Fallen Rider or Lost Soul, you are not losing cards in your hand anymore. You're actually buffing a card in hand if you discard it. And I'm just curious if recalling will kind of go down the same road, where recall just became very much stronger all of a sudden because of new cards added. But to find that out, let's take a look at the rest of the package. First of all, Windsinger, 6 mana, 4/3, play, skill, recall a unit. Goes on the stack, is therefore interactable. To be honest, this kind of just looks like a worse Will of Ionia. Will of Ionia with a body, basically, but you don't want a body on Will of Ionia. You want that card to be fast speed so that if your opponent open attacks against you, you can just bounce their unit back, and you want it to be as cheap as possible. I don't know, this card doesn't really look good to me, or like it makes a lot of sense. Cynon, 1,000-tailed. 6 mana, 3/5. When I'm summoned, draw 2, and give all other allies +1/+1 this round. Damn. Damn, this card can be really, really, really freaking good. I mean, we're assuming we're playing Ahri in a swarm type of archetype anyway, right? It plays a lot of cheap units and a lot of elusives as well. So it's going to be pretty easy to flood the board and get, like, then this basically becomes, let's say it buffs 4 units. This is a 6 mana, 7/9, quick maths. Then this becomes a 6 mana 7/9 basically that also draws 2 freaking cards, and it's a summon effect and not a play effect. So if you use a card like Go Get It on this, it's gonna be absolutely freaking bonkers. Now keep in mind that nonetheless this card requires you to already have a board and everything, so it's high risk, high reward. If you don't have any other units, you're not super happy to play this, but even then nonetheless draw 2. And we'll also have to see what kind of deck we build around it if we get additional recall payoffs, like with Cloaked Matriarch, that we can maybe even amplify this whole effect. So this is the first time in a long time that I will actually say an epic card might be pretty darn strong. We'll have to see once we actually build decks around it though. And another epic card, 8 mana, slow speed, summon ephemeral copies of the 3 strongest followers you've recalled this game. This does not sound like a good card at all. You'll mostly play the recall package in decks with a lot of cheap units, right? It doesn't make that much sense to recall expensive units because of the high mana cost you would have to repay. This could be a card, a meme-ish card. Maybe you can build some crazy combos around it, but I can't think of any right now. At least I can't think of any deck that would be good around this card. Yeah, I can't imagine this seeing too much play. Oh, just noticed you couldn't see the rarity gem. Of course, this is an epic card. What else? All right, moving on to the cards that were revealed yesterday, the rest of the Ahri package, basically. And now we also see why I call this whole Ahri package very strong, because it's very, very highly synergistic. Lots of cheap and very effective units. 1 mana, 2/1 elusive. Permanent elusive. Not like Navori Blade Scout. Nexus Strike, Recall Me. Sounds pretty darn good, because you can often opt whether or not you actually go for the Nexus Strike when you attack with this, right? Because if you have Ahri next to her, you can basically use the Morns to swap positions, make sure the Morn does not attack the Nexus, but allows Ahri another free hit instead. And if you don't want to do that, if you're still trying to level up Ahri or a card like Kennen or Yasuo, you can just send this into the Nexus, get some chip damage, and then replay it for the ridiculously cheap price of just 1 mana. This could definitely see a lot of play in those types of decks. This looks very solid, like a good enabler. Alright, Woodland Keeper. I love the art, first of all. This card looks absolutely gorgeous. Woodland Keeper. When I'm summoned, give me +1/+0 and elusive this round. 3 mana, 3/2. I have some doubts with this one. It should be a bit more on the expensive side for most of these decks. But if we do try to build some very aggressive elusive decks, I mean, 3 mana for a 4 attack elusive is definitely good, and we can pile up some offensive combat tricks as well as some protective stuff like Twin Disciplines or Notify onto this. But overall, these cards usually don't do that well that are this conditional, which is also the reason why a card like Navori Blade Scout doesn't really see play outside of this one rally archetype. So I'll say this is somewhat playable, but I think there are mostly gonna be better options. 4 mana 4/3 Pathless Ancient costs 2 if you've recalled a unit this round. This one's gonna see a lot more play, I think. We effectively have a 2 mana 4/3 in most cases. High deck building cost, of course, but this is what I talked about earlier. Some payoffs for having a lot of recalls in your deck, and this is exactly like a very consistent payoff and very synergistic in a lot of ways. And this also basically fills a hole that the archetype previously had. This is a unit you're happy to trade with. This unit is basically just there so that if your opponent attacks, you can block into their Poppy without having to sacrifice your champions or your elusives or something like that. I could definitely see Pathless Ancient see a lot of play and be very solid. God Willow Seedling, another 3 mana landmark in Ionia. Recall an ally to summon an ephemeral copy of it. Countdown 2, summon another ephemeral copy of it. Now, I would say this is going to be broken with that Fox we saw earlier on, but the earliest you could do this would be turn 7. I'm not sure if that's a bit too late. That's an interesting one. This rather looks like a bit of a combo card, and this is only really worth it if you put this on a higher cost unit, which means it comes down pretty late into the game. Now, I could imagine you could build some pretty cool combos around that, and maybe this isn't bad on a card like Kennen to level him quicker, or on a card like Dancing Droplet or something like that. But overall, I don't think this is necessarily going to be a staple. I don't think this will be an auto-include. Who knows, maybe people will get creative and build some fun combos around this. Moving on, we have Memory's Cloak. 3 mana fast speed. Pick an ally being targeted by fast, slow, or skills, so no burst, with only 1 target. Stop them. Okay. So kind of a conditional 3 mana deny/write-off negation. Oh man, I'm a bit scared because this feels like it might be ridiculous on a Lee Sin. That's my biggest worry right here. One thing I am very curious about is that if our opponent casts 2 spells, let's say they cast Mystic Shot and Static Shock at the same time to remove our unit, can we still play Memory's Cloak just to remove the Mystic Shot? Yeah, I find it hard to gauge this card while having limited info on how exactly it will work. Now, I don't think this will see a lot of play. I could see this be a 1-off or 2-off in a lot of combo decks, though. Maybe even stuff like Yasuo is gonna like to have it. But the most obvious one would be Lee Sin. So I don't really like to see it, to be honest, because Lee Sin is already enough of a pain, and he doesn't necessarily need to get stronger. Like, especially if you've been around the competitive circuit, Lee Sin has been a staple and one of the best choices for like a year or so, Lee Sin Targon. But anyway, let's move on. 9 lives, another epic card. 5 mana burst speed, summon a Liminal Guardian, which is a 3/2. Okay, when I'm summoned, summon a random 1-cost follower from your regions. So on average, we'll have what, a 5/3 or a 4/4 for 5 mana? When I'm recalled, transform me into 9 lives. So this goes back to this. But only when I'm recalled. So if you die, you're permanently gone. Yeah, I'll be quite honest, this doesn't look like a good card at all, and I also can't really imagine a deck that would really be able to benefit from this. I mean, I guess the idea is going for those more expensive combos, like for example, your opponent open attacks on turn 8. I don't know, you play 9 lives, have that burst speed blocker. I mean, don't get me wrong, having 2 burst speed blockers or attackers is going to be pretty valuable, but I don't think you're going to be playing this card in a very aggressive tempo-based deck, so that offensive part falls away. And getting 2 blockers as burst speed is definitely very cute, but I feel like the only situations where this card is really going to pay off and be above average is very late into the game when you can play 9 lives, assign the blocks, and then also play a card like Go Get It on this, so you get multiple 9 lives in hand. And then you basically make sure you don't run out of value anymore, but at the same time, you only have a bunch of 9 lives in hand. Like, it's not like the card is gonna win you the game on its own. I don't really see it here. I'm not quite sure what the idea was. Maybe we can just stamp this up as another KEKW epic card that will never see any real play. But as always, let me know if I missed something. I'm not sure if you guys have ideas around this card. And that was all for the Ahri package. Now we know all of the cards that will be coming in Magic Misadventures. Around the Ahri package, what would be the most likely builds? I would definitely say Kennen and Yasuo just because of the very obvious recall synergies. I'm wondering if there are some other cards where it really pays off that have like strong summon effects that it would be worth building an Ahri deck around. But as of right now, the recall archetypes looks kind of pre-built, and there's a good chance that if you want to play this somewhat competitively, you are going to be forced to go into either the Kennen or the Yasuo direction. And let's be quite honest, it's going to be the Kennen direction. But that being said, I kind of already said the same things about Kennen that I did about Ahri, right? This is gonna be a new mechanic that will definitely push the game to its boundaries. And if people will find the right deck, and it will be played by a very high skill cap player that really knows all of the interactions, then I feel like Kennen Ahri might definitely become a super strong archetype. But as always, let me know what you guys think. Deck ideas that you have, I'm very curious to read them. And I hope that you all have fun with Magic Misadventures and that you don't get run over by too many Yordles.